Good evening, everybody. Hello, welcome to Oran Park for this, the first of many one-off races we're going to have throughout the next month or so. Formula AI, Skip Barber at Oran Park. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic race indeed. The guys just winding down their practice laps. The quickest time so far, sorry for Oran with a 1:13.7, but Ilham Plabi, this man right here, will be very close behind. So now we're going to have a quick look at the order that they're in right now towards the end of practice. Safa Arifin is in first place, Ilham Halabi in second, Kelvin, he is in third place, Javier Alvarez in fourth, Azrael Nazli, Surin Salvaraju in 5th and 6th place respectively, Teku Ershad in 7th, Afik Fadlan in 8th, Iman Danish in 9th, Mohamed Mohaimin in 10th, followed by Jasri Junos, Shawar Rajab and Calvin Ha. This race brought to you by Precision Sim Racing and the Sim Racing Enthusiasts, so special thanks goes out to those guys, and as well as the iRacing platform. So this is Oran Park, 2.6 kilometers, very, very challenging track indeed. It looks a little bit strange in the first sector there, and that's because this is one of the few racetracks in the world that has a figure 8 layout. So the majority of the lap is held in a counterclockwise direction, but there is a small clockwise loop at the start going into third tree. So a very, very interesting race out there. It's going to be a little bit cold for the guys out there. The weather is about 20 degrees C. The track temperature is around about 23-24 degrees Celsius, and it's going to be a very, very tricky race in terms of grip levels for these guys out there. I'll be delivering my name is Max Palmer, and I'll be delivering the commentary today, and with us we have our director Karo Alang as well in the broadcast booth, getting through all the cameras and giving us these fantastic shots of Saifur Arifin. Now you can see how hard these Skip Barber cars are to drive. They're 2-litre Dodge engines in the back, even though the series is sponsored by Mazda nowadays. The engines incidentally are prepared by a independent company, so there's no manufacturer involvement in this series, but nevertheless it is a very popular series for drivers in the States. It's the first step in what has been commonly described as the road to Indy. In fact, that particular stepping stone, that particular series of championships was sponsored by Mazda until very, very recently. And they race all across America. There's an Eastern Conference, Western Conference, and they all get together for the SCCA finals. Very, very interesting indeed. Now, these cars are a wing race car. They do have quite a bit of downforce, but crucially, they run the same tyres as the Formula V's and the Formula Ford 1600. So they are a threaded tyre. That means you can see the grooves in the tyres there. They are an all-weather tyre, so they will not need to change their tyres from wets to slicks or slicks to wets. But in a lot of other ways, these cars are very much what you expect from a junior formula. So guys who come out of karting and go into the Skip Barber car. In fact, the Skip Barber Racing School still uses these as a training tool. As we watch Kelvin T there about to start a lap, it's really very challenging car to drive. It's totally manual steering, very, very heavy steering indeed, because the steering ratio is very, very high. There's only about 180 degrees worth of lock per turn, so you really can only turn the wheel 180 degrees one way or 180 degrees the other way. You really only actually ever use 90 degrees of lock in the steering wheel, so you only ever have to turn the wheel 90 degrees, but it is very, very heavy indeed. And the gear change in these cars are fully manual, so the real life cars have a small, rather short, stubby gear lever that you have to change gear yourself. Very, very crucial to get the gear changes right in these cars, because on a single seater it's very easy to damage a lot of the components. They've been made as light as possible, even these junior cars. So very, very interesting car indeed to try and drive. Very challenging as well. I remember back in the old days when drivers used to come out of karting and into single-seaters, they quickly discovered that these cars are fairly physical indeed. So much so that a lot of the drivers, when they first drive single-seaters, they put a little bit of cotton on the palm of their hands in order to stop from getting blisters when they're changing gears. So they might look very dainty and light and all of that, but they are very, very physical cars indeed. And never mind the G-forces, which in these cars can go somewhere up to 1.8 to 2 G in cornering. Afik Fadlan there, he's doing quite well for himself. He's up into 8th place. We're starting to see a lot of the drivers start to close in on the two drivers up ahead, Saif Arifin and Ilham Hlabi. So this is going to set up a very, very interesting qualifying session indeed. It's going to be a heat race. The first heat is 20 minutes long, the sprint race, and then we're going to have a full-on feature race that's going to be 30 minutes long. And seeing as the setup for these cars are open, it's going to be very interesting to see where everyone goes on their setup and what sort of fuel loads they're going to be running as well. But you can see these cars move around a lot more than a Formula 1 car or even a Formula 3 car. And that's because even though they are aero cars, so to say, there is a bit of a lack of downforce in these vehicles. We have a question there from Omar Abdulaziz. When does the AMC League new season start? Right. Well, we're not too sure just quite yet because we're waiting on a couple of sponsorship opportunities to come through. Unfortunately, the current pandemic has hindered us ever so slightly, but we will get that back to you as soon as possible. So do stay tuned. We will get underway with Season 3 as soon as we can. But in the meantime, we have a whole series of one-off races to see us through the end of this month and into the next. We have some Formula AI races. We hope to bring you some endurance racing as well as any races that the AIMC competitors might be involved in throughout the course of this season. So you can see there, Saif Arifin warming his tyres up, trying to get as much heat into those threaded tyres. They're BF Goodrich threaded tyres, the same tyres that are used in Formula V and Formula Ford. So just getting a little bit sideways there and just about keeps the car off the wall there. That's fairly challenging driving through there. Nabil Fazila says, "Hi Max." Hi Nabil. Hope you are enjoying the stream right now. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch these guys go around the track. And it'll be interesting to see where we can take this Formula AI sort of concept further. So this will be the brand that we're running all the single-seater race coverages under, and it's going to be very, very fun indeed to watch, as these cars, the kind of racing that you get in single seat or open wheel formulas are really very frantic sort of starts, very frantic overtaking maneuvers. You've got to be very precise as well, so you're going to see quite a lot of these drivers make mistakes, and especially with the Skip Barber being a very sensitive car. You can see that Iman Danish having to put a lot of steering lock to try and correct the slides and to try and get the car into the corner. It's really going to be very tricky to get a quick lap during this qualifying session. You can see that Iman just struggling a little bit to try and get the car turned in. We have there Shami Azri says, "Good luck to everyone," and looks like they're going to really need this. You can see Iman getting the car very sideways through there. That's going to cost him quite a bit of time going through the bridge section and into the S's. He's really got to be very careful with these cars. Ooh, big sideways movement there onto the curb, and yeah, with these cars you really don't want to keep the sliding down to a minimum. You can slide the car into the corners just a little bit to help with rotation, but you do lose quite a bit of speed when you slide the cars around like that. But Iman Danish is going to go across the line. Meanwhile, Surin Selvaraju looks to be the first person to cross the line, and he takes provisional pole, 115.646 for Surin Selvaraju. I am sure that time is going to fall for provisional pole position. So Soren will be pushing hard to try and improve on that, and as well as quite a few of the other drivers there. Now we see Mohammed Mohaimin coming across the line there. He is going to set another lap time. He will set... He does not set the lap time. He perhaps will try and restart that again. Calvin Ha also goes across the line, and he goes to provisional second. 117.741 for Calvin Ha, driving the fantastic Lotus JPS liveried car there. Really hard on the brakes there, and that's caused him to slide off the track. And there looks to be an incident. We might have to see a replay of that, but that was I saw a wheel flying off the car there, so that might be a little bit of damage to those cars there. There's quite a few cars that have gone off. Let's have a quick look at what happened. You can see one of the cars there. That was the car behind Calvin Ha. Coming down. Yep. So that's Azrael Nazli behind Calvin Ha. And Calvin gets the car sideways, spins it, and collects another car who has already spun. That must have been Mohaimin. And that's what caused Azrael to park the car there. That was a very interesting incident. The actual impact itself actually took place off the track. So they really wouldn't want to be doing that too often. It's only a 10-minute qualifying session, so these guys really have to push quite hard indeed. And they've also got to watch out for other drivers out on track. This is an open qualifying session. Fastest lap counts. So they're really going to be trying to push as hard as they can. Javier Alvarez taking us around the lap here. You've got to go really quick into turn 1 before braking hard and turning in into turn 2. You can see Javier being as smooth as possible. Now you go under the bridge and down into this new section of track. Turn 3, very, very difficult indeed. It's very bumpy, so you've got to be really careful coming out of here. And down straight here into turn 4. The bumpiest corner on the track. You can see the car being very badly upset through that. Now they're going to go over the bridge and into the S's through turn 5 here and through turns 6 and 7. You've got to be really careful feeding the car through here, because it's very easy to get the car spun around. Now on to the final few corners of the lap there. You can see there Javier really having to control the wheel spin of the car. They don't have too much horsepower, but they really do put the power to the ground quite aggressively, these cars. Now coming up into the final corner there, you can see Javier just getting a little bit of understeer there, just sliding up to the end of the corner there. You really want to get as close as you can to the wall there, but you can get too close, and that's across the line for Javier Alvarez. That puts him up into second place with a 1:15.586. So Javier will be trying to push very hard indeed to try and get a better lap through there. Saiful Arifin, one of the quicker drivers in rear drive cars. He had a little bit of a struggle with the Kias in the previous season of the Adrenaline Impact Racing Malaysia Championship, and you can see that he is now in some more pertinent machinery, shall we say, getting the car very sideways through the exit of the corner there. Lots of car control being employed. Let's see what lap time he's able to put up. It's a 1:15.844, so that puts Saiful Arifin into 4th place. So we know that Saiful and Ilham were both able to get into the 1:13. So let's see if that's possible right now. The temperatures are warming up. It is a nice balmy morning in Oran Park as we speak. We watch Kelvin T, our usual post-race analyst. Also has quite a fondness for the open wheel cars, and he's really pushing very hard out there to try and get that car up as high as possible. And we see we have a new pole sitter. Javier Alvarez goes 1:14.880, whilst Kelvin goes 3rd with a 1:15.233. So the driver is beginning to really put the quick times in, but ooh, there's a spinner there, and that's going to almost cause Kelvin to spin. These cars are on a knife edge almost all the time, so we see Saiful Arifin coming up to try and complete his lap. He'll be trying to go quicker than 5th place again across the crest here and into the final corner. Got to be really careful into the braking zone here and try and keep the car over 100 kilometers an hour if you can, but sometimes you're just not able to do that, and it looks like he's aborted the lap. He's going into the pits. Meanwhile, Ilham Halabi is another contender for pole position, our previous season's champion, really trying his hand out in the open wheel categories. He has done quite a lot of open wheel racing in the past in iRacing, so he should have quite a lot of experience there in trying to control the car there. Gets the car sideways across the crest, really pushing the car hard indeed. Now he's got to keep it nice and tidy, run the car right up to the wall and head across the line. Let's see what his lap time is going to be. That is a personal best.
I guess that was a still an outlet.
Yeah, it must have been. Again, very careful to try and set the car up there, and ooh, that's not going to do him too many favours. And nor will this from Sawal Rajab, who was doing quite well for himself, but unfortunately he just made that mistake at turn 2. It's very hard to try and get turn 2 right in these cars here at Oran Park, because you've got a corner that you can't really take flat out. In a high downforce car, you take turn 1 here at Oran Park flat out into the braking zone, then immediately hard on the brakes to go into turn 2, which is the first real tight corner of the track. But in these cars, you go through turn 1 with the car slightly sideways coming into the braking zone. You've got to try and straighten up, brake the car and then turn it in, all at the same time. So it's a very challenging sequence of corners for these cars to try and handle. And of course, with the lower grip levels that the Skip Barber cars have, it really is a challenge. You can see there Faraz Fadzil having to put some opposite lock on, and unfortunately he's just got the car a bit too sideways, and he's around, collected by one of the cars there. So that is just goes to show how hard these cars are to try and handle. So now this is the grid for the Formula AI race at Skip Barber. The Skip Barber cars at Oran Park, at the Oran Park Grand Prix layout. Kelvin T is on pole position, followed by Javier Alvarez. The two Hermanos Veloces teammates are first and second. Iman Danish is in third, followed by Surin Salvaraju, who's another Hermanos Veloces driver. Saifur Arifin is in fifth place, followed by Afik Fadlan, Calvin Ha, Shawal Rijab, Jasri Junos, Ilham Halabi, Azril Nazli and Tinku Ershad.
Quite a number of cars tonight. We have 16 drivers.
Absolutely a fantastic field for what did prove to be a bit of a short notice event put on. We can see that Tinku Ershad is in 12th, Mahaimin in 14th place. They will be quick towards the latter part of the race, I am sure. But now we're waiting for a few drivers to grid up. We're waiting for Kelvin T, Javier Alvarez and Surin Salvaraju to get into the grid, and then we'll get started with Heat 1.
Heat 2 will be an inverted grid, so it will be something interesting to see.
Right, so that's going to really throw a spanner in the works. Obviously, a lot of these drivers, they'll really be pushing hard for the win in both heats, but the reverse grid means that the quick guys will start at the back for the feature race, and they'll really have to push hard in order to try and get up and take the win. But now all the cars are on the grid, the lights are on. It's going to be a standing start for these cars. 5 red lights go on, and they're away. Kelvin T manages to make a fantastic start. Javier Alvarez managing to keep it up and running. Iman Danish in third place, but it looks like Ilham Nabi had a real bad start. He's all the way back in 16th place, so that's going to be a real problem for him to try and fight back up the field. But meanwhile, Kelvin T manages to keep the car in the lead, but Iman Danish really trying hard to try and get around Javier Alvarez, putting a lot of pressure on the Spaniard there, and they're going too wide into turn 4 further behind, with Saifur Arifin and Afik Fadlan battling away at the back there. So this is going to be a absolutely amazing run up into the bridge there. Now again, coming up to this corner, very bumpy, setting the car up for the bridge, going over the bridge and into turn 5. Kevin T really doing a really good job to try and get as much of a gap as possible. The top 3 have begun to go ahead, and it looks like Iman Danish has lost it. Iman Danish was pressuring Javier Alvarez, but unfortunately he's gone off the road, just got the car a little bit too sideways there, and he has gone right down the field. Jasri Junos as well has gone off the track, and Shukran also off the track as well. But meanwhile, Saifur Arifin is really in Surin Selvaraju at quite a rate. The Tournament Motorsports driver is really pushing the Hermanos Veloces driver as hard as possible across the line here. Coming into turn 1, now you're going to see one of the overtaking opportunities that you can have, because it's a very hard braking zone and a very difficult braking zone to try and pull off. If the driver in front has a mistake, the driver behind will be able to make something out of it. Shami Azri there reports back cold tyres. That is perhaps the reason why he had the mistake there, but meanwhile Safar Arifin is really putting a lot of pressure there on Surin Selvaraju. Surin, the Singaporean driver who likes to compete a lot in the SRE events, really pushing that Skip Barber car, the Skippies as they're known in SRE and in iRacing circles. Absolutely entertaining car to watch, to drive and to race, and a really very entertaining on-track product indeed. Now Saiful looks like he's going to really push Surin very hard indeed through the last few corners here. Coming up to the last bend, it's all about the traction he can gain on the exit, and it looks like Saiful's got a little bit of an advantage here. He's also got the slipstream in these cars that can make a very big difference indeed. He's going to go side by side. He's going to try and go for the overtaking maneuver. Let's see if he can pull this off. He's now just ahead of Surin Selvaraju, and that is a beautiful slipstream past Surin and into the lead. So Safa Arifin moves up into 3rd place, just behind Javier Alvarez and Kelvin T. But meanwhile, Muhammad Muhaimin has real trouble on his hand. He's got Iman Danish running the other Tata Motorsports car, pushing as hard as he can to try and get past. Iman is on a mission. He has spun out on the first corner there, on the first lap, and now he's pushing as hard as he can to try and gain as many positions as he can. Try and get that podium position right up at the front of the field. Iman Danish there really pushing hard indeed. You can see there that they're pulling away from this group of black and gold cars there. Tuku Ershad is in 8th place. He's got Muhaimin up ahead, but he's also got Ilham Hlabi behind him, and that's going to be a very hard man to try and keep behind. Tuku Ershad, a lot of experience in racing. He's got to be really careful to try and keep the very, very experienced Ilham Hlabi behind him. Ilham, of course, our previous season champion. You can see the two drivers starting to work together there. They go side by side. They're going to go 3 wide. Will they be able to hold on? And it looks like Tuku Ershad decides to give up the room there rather wisely and let Ilham Hlabi off. That is a double overtake from Ilham Hlabi. Sensational stuff going down the start-finish straight. He moves up into 7th place. Muhaimin goes down to 8th and Ershad into 9th. But it's not over yet, because you can see Muhaimin has just a little bit of a pace advantage through this far end of the circuit. So let's see if this is going to work out well for him. It really all depends on how quick Ilham Hlabi is coming through the final sectors of the lap. But it looks like going through the S's here, it looks to me that just by eye, Ilham looks like he's got the pace advantage. But right now, that was the man he was battling with, his teammate Tuku Ershad, who was pushing very hard indeed to try and get into the high positions. Azrul Nasli, meanwhile, he is pushing very hard indeed to try and catch up with the man ahead, Tarmizi Yusuf. Tarmizi pushing the car very wide. He almost goes into the barrier there. He's using every single inch of the track in order to try and gain an advantage. But Azrael really pushing the car hard. He's starting to use the slipstream effect that these cars have quite a lot of. Azrael taking a very shallow line through the corner there, and it looks like both drivers having a little bit of trouble trying to keep the car on track. Now these drivers would have been able to adjust a few things on the car. These cars aren't as adjustable as a Formula 3 car or a Indy Light car, but nevertheless you are allowed to adjust a few parameters. One of them being the fuel capacity. Now you want to on a single seat race car like this, you want to run the car as light as you possibly can, but that has two disadvantages. One, the car becomes very nervous when it's light, so you really have to be quite confident with your reactions. You have to be very, very good with reacting to what the car is going to do. The car will be very nervous, skittish on the brakes, and a little bit more prone to snapping oversteer, snap oversteer and snap understeer. But, and of course, they also have to worry about the fuel consumption and make sure they don't go over their limits. But the advantage in these cars is that every single kilogram matters when it comes to performance. So having the car just a little bit lighter means that you will be a little bit faster out of the corners. You can take a higher apex speed in the middle of the corners, and you can change direction a lot faster. So it is definitely a world of diminishing returns. In single seat racing, you're trying to look for every single bit of performance you can. Even in a spec series like this, it goes down even to sticker placements and helmet design. That's how detailed you have to be. And teams will spend hours checking things like wheel bearings and making sure the engine and gearbox are spinning up as freely as possible. The steering system on these cars, when you jack them up in the pits, you're able to flick it from lock to lock with a simple push of the finger. And that's because you really don't want to give the drivers any more headaches when they're driving out there on track. But meanwhile, Surin Selvaraju is still trying to catch up with this battle that is developing up ahead. Javier Alvarez has managed to catch up with Saiful Arifin. Saiful managed to get past Javier earlier on in the previous lap, but now they're going to get into a battle situation. Surin is also catching up with the Spaniard. It's going to be very challenging indeed to see who is going to come out on top on that. Meanwhile, Mohamed Mohaimin is battling with Calvin Ha. Calvin managing to slipstream past, but let's see if Mohaimin can get back in under brakes. Mohaimin really deep under the brakes there. It looks like Calvin has a slight disadvantage in the braking zone compared to Mohaimin, and Mohaimin is able to just reel back Calvin in the JPS livery car by quite a substantial margin. Going through the back part of the course there, over the bridge, and it looks like Mohaimin spun. Mohaimin got the car sideways and he's gone off the road. So that's going to give an advantage to Calvin Ha, who's going to sprint away there. That's going to be a big disappointment for Mohaimin, especially as this race is not as long as you can make it. Ilham Hlabi there in 5th place, still battling quite hard there. He's got Afik Fadlan behind him in the Petronas livery car, and Iman Danish also behind him as well. Ilham is trying to push as hard as he can to try and catch that gap right back up to Surin Selvaraju further up the field. But Ilham really throwing the car at the curbs, using every single inch of the track. You have to in these single seat cars, in these open wheel cars, you have to use every single inch of the track you can. All about conserving momentum and all about precision. That is the biggest part of this sort of game, is precision. Speaking of which, a special thanks to Precision Sim Racing. Do stay tuned, we have a very exciting collaboration with those guys coming up ahead. We can't wait to tell you what it is, so do stick around and do stay tuned to Adrenaline Impact. And while you're there and while you're here, in fact, do leave a comment down below and let us know what you think of this fantastic racing that we're watching right now. And while you're down there, hit that like button, subscribe and share it with your friends, and spread that sim racing love around. Meanwhile, Surin Selvaraju really putting a lot of pressure on Javier Alvarez. Javier going a little bit wide through there. You can see Javier's really warmed up the tyres. In fact, he'd gone completely off the road, and Surin has gone into 3rd place. So exciting developments there. Surin Selvaraju goes into a podium position in that red and black machine, screaming off into the distance there. Javier must really be a little bit frustrated. He had a really big battle on his hands there, but unfortunately he had to run wide the car seems to be like the tires began to overheat a little bit, and when these tires start to overheat, they really do fall off quite quickly. These tires are designed to run at a very specific temperature, so if you do exceed the temperature, if it's too cold or too hot, then the car becomes very unstable. It becomes very slippery indeed. It looks like there's a big impact there. Aswin Nasli managed to avoid that, but there's a car up ahead who's gone off the track. Ooh, just missed everything there. So that was one of the Tata Motorsports cars.
That was Tarmizi. Yeah, he was catching up to Tarmizi for quite a number of laps, and Tarmizi finally made an error there.
Yeah, and quite a big error indeed. It looks like he got two wheels on the gravel.
Let's see what happened. And how Azrael pushed him to that moment. It was it.
So yeah, you can see Tarmizi already pushing the car around, sliding the car around quite a bit. Now coming up to the S's here, you can see Azrael is actually catching you quite a bit, and it looks like he just pushed the car a little bit too wide on the exit of the corner there. Again, like I said, in a single seat racing car you have to use every single inch of the track possible, but unfortunately he just ran out of room there. Got a tyre in the dirt, and in these cars there's no coming back from that. You are off the track. But Azrael Nasli managing to get himself up into the top 10, pushing very hard indeed. Mohammed now is doing battle with Calvin Ha. This was the battle that we saw earlier on in the race, and it looks like it's going to be one that's going to go for the majority of the sprint race portion of this evening's entertainment. Right now we have 13 minutes have passed, and about 7 minutes to go if my maths are right. And Kelvin T is still in the lead of the race, followed by Saiful Arifin and Surin Selva Raju. So that's Kelvin, Saiful and Surin first, second and third. Javier Alvarez in fourth place, catching up to Surin Selva Raju at quite a rate of knots. Ilham Habi in fifth, 3.3 seconds behind. Iman Danish a further 2.77 seconds behind.
You can really see the slipstream coming in fact in here in the front straight.
Oh yeah, these cars being aerodynamic cars, you really do get a lot of weight turbulence off the back of these cars, so slipstreaming is one of the things that single seaters do best, and you almost have to wonder why Formula 1 needs DRS, because the single seat cars tend to be able to almost vacuum the car behind them up towards them. It's absolutely amazing to see, and that just goes to show the power of aerodynamics. These cars in single seat racing terms don't have that much downforce, but when you compare it to perhaps the Kias or the V8 supercars, they actually have quite a lot, and you can start to drive them like they're aero cars. So very, very interesting stuff indeed. Now Javier starting to put the pressure on Surin. Again, Javier gave that position up to Surin earlier on in the race. Now Surin is pushing as hard as he can to try and gain back some vital positions up at the head of the queue. Javier putting a wheel in the dirt there, just about got away with it, but it looks like by our reckoning he was catching up there. Mohammed still trying to get past Calvin Ha, meanwhile, for the battle for 11th and 12th.
That was very close. I think he can read all the gearbox letterings on his rear differentials.
Oh yeah, you'll probably figure out what gear ratio Calvin Ha was using there. That's how close they got. And that's the interesting part here. Oran Park really only has one straight that you can do this sort of slipstream battling on, but it is a very long straight indeed. But it looks like Mohammed's getting very, very close through here, tucked up underneath the wing of Calvin Ha. They're less than half a second between these two drivers, and it looks like if Mohammed plays his cards right, he might be able to make an overtaking maneuver stick very, very shortly indeed. Calvin getting the car a little bit sideways there. You can see both drivers are pushing the car absolutely to the limit. Again, straight lining this chicane as much as possible, coming over the crest, now down into the final corner, and they're very close coming out of the corners there. It's all about trying to get as much traction and speed out there. Mohammed runs the car all the way out to the exit of the corner, and he's going closer and closer and closer. Will this be enough? They're almost touching, and he decides not to go for it. Perhaps Mohammed is trying to go for the pressure tactic and try and force Calvin Ha to make a mistake. And Calvin almost does there. He gets the car very sideways going into turn 2. But Mohammed really pushing hard in order to try and catch up with him. Absolutely fantastic racing indeed. Battles up and down developing there. Surin and Alvarez still battling very hard indeed, as well as Calvin Ha and Mohammed. And it looks like Mohammed, he's a little bit quicker at the first part and the last part of the track, but Calvin Ha gets the car very sideways indeed. That's going to slow him down quite a lot. It's now down to Mohammed to see if he can make that, capitalize on that mistake. You can see them pushing very hard indeed, coming up to the final part there. Mohammed virtually straight lining the chicane there, and both drivers take onto the grass. They are desperate to try and get up just one more position. Mohammed in 12th, Calvin Ha in 11th. You would have thought that they were trying to go for the race win, but that's the fantastic part about these single seat race cars. There's always someone you can battle with in terms of outright skill. But you can see there, both drivers coming into turn 2 very hard in these cars to try and slow down and get the car turned in. Meanwhile, Javier is still pushing very hard indeed. In fact, he's gone across the grass in his desperate attempt to try and get back into the podium places. He's pushed that Skip Barber car as hard as it'll go. Surin Selvaraju is up ahead, and he's got the right foot flat to the floor coming into turn 1. Let's see what they do under brakes. And it looks like Javier got the car turned in just a little bit tight for himself. Surin has to go, manages to take the full racing line there and gain just a little bit of extra speed. But right now behind him is another problem for Javier, and that is Ilham Hlabi. And now we know Ilham Hlabi is the intimidator here on the Adrenaline Impact races. He likes to creep up behind you and really put a lot of pressure on you, so Javier has a real conundrum. He wants to try and get past Surin as much as possible, but unfortunately it looks like Surin has managed to pull away quite a bit. Meanwhile, Ilham is catching at a fair rate of knots. It's still all very, very close indeed, however, and it could all change for just one mistake there, and Javier has gone completely off the road and manages to keep that position. That is amazing stuff. Meanwhile, Mohammed is going side by side with Calvin Ha underneath the bridge. Let's see who is going to win it in the braking zone for turn 3, and it looks like Mohammed has finally managed to get past Calvin Ha, and he moves up one place into 11th position. Absolutely fantastic stuff there. But now this battle here, Javier was completely off the road at several points in the lap in a desperate attempt to try and get past, but it looks like Ilham Hlabi has managed to get past him and is now putting a lot of pressure on Surin.
Did we miss that overtake?
Yeah?
Did we miss that overtake?
Yes.
Let's just rewind. I was wondering how Ilham got there.
Yeah. So we were seeing Javier actually, yeah, he went off the track there. So just before we cut away, he went off the track. We cut away to go for Tabizi's overtake, so he went off the track here, and it looks like Ilham Hlabi was just able to drive around it. Javier quite responsibly decides to back off and let him pass, but now the battle is between Surin and Ilham, and it looks like Javier is really having a hard time trying to get that car going through the S's. Ilham right on the gearbox of Surin. It must be a matter of time. Surin gets sideways, very sideways indeed. Now they're side by side down the main straight. Looks like Ilham Hlabi manages to outdrag Surin Selvaraju through that corner there, and now Javier Alvarez is caught up with Surin as well. So Ilham Hlabi has managed to gain 2 places in 2 laps going through turn 1 here, and it's now a case of just trying to keep that car ahead as much as possible. But it looks like Surin is not giving up yet. He's pushing as hard as he can himself. You can see the heat haze coming off the exhaust there. Absolutely fantastic detail.
I wonder what happened to Iman.
It looks like he's got a bit of trouble there. And
yeah. We missed it again. Let's just rewind. Ilham.
So you can see Ilham Hlabi was going into that corner there, and he's got hit. He was hit. Surin Selvaraju went into the back of Ilham Halabi, and that's very unfortunate for Ilham there. He's now out of the race. And there's quite a lot of
How
damage there
sensitive
from...
the car was.
Oh yes, these cars definitely can't have any contact between two single-seater cars, because usually they'll end up with quite a lot of damage. Kelvin T is still in the lead. He comes across the line and he wins the race. Saiful Arifin is in second place, and Surin is about 13 seconds behind. He'll come home very, very soon to cap off what must be the hardest defense of a podium position possible. Javier Alvarez comes home in 4th place. Tuku Ershad comes home in 5th, whilst Afik Fadlan heads home in 6th place. Very, very exciting stuff, and a very dramatic ending to the end of Heat 1 here on the Formula AI race. That's pretty amazing stuff indeed. Calvin gets sideways on the last lap as well. He gets the car completely sideways, 90 degrees of the road. He manages to keep the car on the tarmac, but that means he won't be able to battle with Jasri much longer. He'll have to be happy with 10th place, and he's going to have to get the car up to speed fairly quickly in order to keep that gap going. But there we see Jasri Junos is about to come across the line. He crosses the line in 9th place. Calvin Ha will come across the line in 10th. That was some pretty spectacular stuff. You see Azrael still battling with basically any car he can come across there, but that's 12th place for him. Shukran comes in 14th, and Iman Danish gets the car sideways. He spins on the final lap as well, and he's the last car out on track. Unfortunately, he spun the car, just trying to get the car back up and running again. He's got a damaged car, so he's trying to drive that thing for one more lap just to try and finish the race there. And let me tell you, a damaged car like that is going to be fairly difficult indeed to try and drive back.
So now the feature race will be an inverted grid.
This is going to be very interesting indeed. So Shawal Rejab will be on pole, with Farouz Fazil in 2nd place, Mohamed Shukran in 3rd place, Iman Danish in 4th, followed by Azrael, Ilham Ha, Jasri, Mohamed Tamizi, Afik, Irshad, Alvarez, Surin, Saiful, and our Heat 1 winner Kelvin T is going to have to fight his way from the back in order to try and get this race done. It's a 30-minute race. The clock is now running. We're trying to get all the cars out on the grid. We're still waiting on Tamizi, Alvarez, Kelvin, and our pole sitter Shawal Rejab. But this is going to be very interesting indeed, because as Heat 1 we saw there was quite a big performance gap with a lot of the drivers, and that's because these cars are very hard indeed to drive in sim racing. It looks like Shawal Rejab will be starting with the pits. The 5 red lights go out, and it's go! Very short period for the lights there. Farouz Fazil has a fairly bad start there. It looks like Iman Danish has managed to get a fantastic start to get all the way up into the lead of the race. He's gone up 3 positions just on his starting line ability alone. A lot of the drivers are trying to make up as much places as possible through turn 1. There's already a car off in the background, but right now the race is being led by Iman Danish, with Shukran in 2nd, Farouz in 3rd, and Ilham Halabi in 4th position. So this is going to be very, very challenging indeed for these drivers there. Ilham is one of the quick drivers who's in 4th because of the incident he had in Heat 1.
How did Ilham get there to get to 3rd?
He started in 3rd. He started in 4th because he had the accident.
6, I think. Let's see from his point of view for the start.
Yeah,
it should be interesting.
So we're going to have a quick look at what his start was like. We're going to go on board with Ilham Halabi at the start. And he gets a very, very good start as well. He's following in Iman Danish's wheel tracks there. Iman had a fantastic start to go from 30 to 1st, and Ilham Halabi managed to get past a couple of drivers as well on the left hand side. So that's how he got himself up into 4th. He's now up into 2nd, so he's made another couple of moves while we're watching that replay. So he is a very quick driver, but unfortunately he had to start, well, I guess fortunately for him, because he had that incident, he was right up there at the front of the field in this reverse grid race. So it looks like Ilham might
Whoa,
have
what's
quite a
this?
challenge
What's this?
there, and
What's
there's
this?
a lot of drivers there, very close to each other, trying to go 4 wide through a corner that didn't really quite have it. It's amazing that these drivers are still up there. Saiful Arifin is pushing as hard as he can to try and get away from that marauding pack of Skip Barber cars. I think Fadlan chasing him down as much as he can, but that looks to be a fantastic move there from one of the drivers. So that we're watching Calvin Ha coming into turn 1 there, and it looks like he got the car very sideways indeed, and just about manages to keep the car on the road, but unfortunately everyone else has to take avoiding action.
That's what we missed.
Yeah, so that was the incident that caused everyone to get bunched up. And very lucky that everyone managed to avoid that. But Saiful Arifin, he's managed to get up 9 places in 3 laps, so that's absolutely amazing stuff indeed. Kelvin T is himself gone all the way up to 5th place. He started from the back of the field, remember, and he's managed to climb all the way up to 5th place. He's now going into 4th place, managing to go right up the field there. Unfortunately, there was another car there that was Tamizi. He took that overtaking maneuver on Tamizi. Unfortunately, Tamizi went a little bit wide coming into turn 2, and he's off the track. But Kelvin T pushing as hard as he can. In fact, he's pushing very hard indeed, throwing the car sideways through turn 3. Now coming up through this very bumpy turn 4 and up to the bridge here. You've got to be very careful. The car goes a little bit light over the bridge. Really throws the car into the corner there, pushing as hard as he can to try and get away from Saiful Arifin. But Saiful is a very quick driver. I suspect this battle is going to go on for a very long time indeed. Really pushing very hard indeed. You can see Saiful really trying to catch up as much as he can. Now the great part about not having too much downforce in these cars is that there's not so much weight turbulence or dirty air as it's known nowadays in the slipstream of the car, so you can follow the car ahead relatively easily compared to other single seat race cars. You can see that Iman Danish really trying hard to hold on to his lead, but he lost the lead to Ilham Halabi, who goes around the outside. A sensational move to try and get up into that position there, but it's still not over. Iman Danish there is on the outside and Ilham Halabi on the inside. Ilham managing to squeeze the car around. He gets the lead for now, but they're going into turn 4. They're still very close to each other. This could go either which way. Watching from Iman Danish's perspective as they go over the bridge and into this right-hander, and there is a chance that Iman might be able to catch back in the next couple of corners there, but it looks like Ilham managed to keep that, make that move stick. They're using all of the road, all of the curb, and some of the grass coming out of that chicane. Really challenging stuff indeed. But that is Ilham Halabi fighting his way up to 1st place. Kelvin Ha managing to go all the way from 16th up into 4th. So that is an absolutely spectacular amount of positions gained there. But Muhaimin also gaining quite a lot of positions to be in 3rd place. So 5 minutes have passed and your top 5 are Ilham Halabi, Iman Danish, Muhammad Muhaimin, Kelvin T and Saiful Arifin. Now they come into the braking zone here. Iman is going to try and see if he can have a look. He's close enough. Unfortunately, he doesn't quite go for it. He decides to tuck in behind Ilham Halabi. You can see Ilham's wing is slightly damaged there, so that's going to affect him just ever so slightly when it comes to trying to get these cars around the track as fast as possible. They're pushing them very hard indeed through these corners, and now they're also already coming up to back markers. That looks to be like it's Shukran up ahead. And you can see Shukran struggling to try and drive as fast as he can in order to try and keep himself in the lead lap, but it looks like it's all going to be fairly academic because Ilham Halabi has the position to try and go past, but he's being bottled up by the car up ahead, and oh, there's a big accident there. The back marker spun right in front of Ilham Halabi. That gives Iman Danish the chance to try and overtake, and Iman Danish takes the lead from Ilham Halabi. Michel Shuru there in the comment section saying, awesome, absolutely, this is fantastic racing right the way through the grid. As for Nasri, meanwhile, he's got a lot of challenges behind him. A real tough race brewing there. Azrael is in 7th place. Behind him, Calvin Ha and Tarmizi Yusuf. They've restarted their battle from Heat 1. They're going to be pushing as hard as they can in order to try and climb as high up that top 10 as possible. Absolutely sensational stuff there. And it looks like Ilham is in the pits, so there's a lot of damage on his car. He had to come into the pits there. It's a new nose cone, a new wing, front and rear for him. Fast repair is on, so he's able to do that pretty much instantly, but he still has to go through the pits there. Now he's down into 7th place. So that's a very challenging, very tough break for him indeed. He is in 12th. He rejoins in 12th position. Meanwhile, Safa Urfin is pushing as hard as he can to try and overtake Mohammed for that final podium position. It looks like Mohammed, he's very close to Mohammed there. He's so close you can actually see the breather bottle on the back of these cars. Pretty much work out what brand the silencer is. But Safa Urfin managed to muscle his way past Mohammed, the fellow Toyota Motorsports driver, and now he's going to go and try and catch up with Kelvin T. Ivan Danish is in the lead. Fortunately, Ilham not having a great weekend so far with those couple of mistakes there. He'll be hoping to try and gain as many positions as he can up ahead. Whoa. There's a big accident there. That's between 3rd place Safa Urfin and Mohammed there. Mohammed looks like he locked up the brakes. When you lock up on a single seater, you actually lose grip and lose retardation. So unfortunately that mistake has caused damage on both Mohammed's car, and it looks like it must have damaged Seifel's car quite a bit. You can see the Mohammed's car has his wing at quite the angle, and it looks like Mohammed is going fairly slowly indeed. Safa Urfin really driving past there at quite the rate of knots. And despite his rather stellar start, it looks like he's going to go into the clutches of Tunku Ershad. Tunku Ershad pushing very hard indeed. Again, another driver in the Toyota Motorsports machinery. Really pushing the car very hard indeed. Mohammed not quite straight lining the track. Tunku Ershad really straight lining the track there. And it looks like this is going to be another overtaking maneuver there for Tunku Ershad. Very close to each other. You can smell the exhaust fumes usually when you're that close in an open wheel car. They go side by side, and it looks like it's going to be an easy overtaking maneuver for Tunku Ershad. Or will it? They're very close coming into turn 2. Will this pose a problem for either one of the drivers there? It looks like there's no problems there. Jasri unfortunately has gone off the track at the same point there, and he'll have to go into the pits. Absolutely fantastic stuff, and we're only a third of the way through the race. Meanwhile, Surin Selvaraju was very quick during the qualifying heats. Now in the feature race, he's really going to push as hard as he can. He's another man who had a little bit of trouble in the earlier part of the race. Now he's going to be battling with Ilham Hlabi as they try and skive their way up through the field. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Drama all up and down the leaderboard there. You can see the remnants of Surin's mistake there. His rear wing is at quite the angle, slightly bent up on the end there. That's going to affect the performance of the car for sure. Ooh, big sideways moment there for Fires Fazil, and that car doesn't look to be very happy indeed. Just a little bit oversteery in terms of balance. That's the back end trying to get out constantly. Ilham very smooth inputs in comparison. They go side by side. It looks like Fires are completely off the track there, tries to rejoin, but he spins. So he spins, and that causes Shukran, I think, a little bit of problems there. But Ilham Hlabi is now gone into 10th place, so he's back up into the top 10. It's now going to be a challenge for Ilham to try and get as high up the leaderboard as he can. It's a last to first challenge that, for once, Ilham Hlabi didn't start. Meanwhile, Iman Danish is still in the lead, followed by, as we go into minute 11, Iman Danish is in the lead, followed by Kelvin T. This man here who's trying to catch up as hard as he can. The winner of the first heat, the sprint race, if you will. Now in the feature race, he's going to push as hard as he can to try and get back into the lead. It'll be absolutely sensational stuff for Kelvin T. He's got up 14 positions over the course of the race. Over 10 laps he's managed to make up 14 positions, so he's been overtaking left, right and centre, and now he's only got one more car up ahead. Azra Nazli meanwhile has a real battle on his hands, trying to get past Mohammed. who's been having all sorts of problems. The car going every which way but straight through the course of the track here. You can see him really fight with the car to try and get through there, as well also having to deal with a little bit of oversteer. It seems to be the theme here at Oran Park that cars are getting a little bit sideways through the track. An absolutely fantastic place to have the race as well. Oran Park, 2.6 kilometers long, has a long history in motorcycle racing in Australia, as well as karting and of course track racing, car racing as well. A popular destination for the V8 supercars when it was open, unfortunately closed down in 2010 when they rezoned the area as a suburb. But absolutely fantastic stuff from all the drivers on this historic Oran Park circuit.
Since we're in Australia, today's V8 supercar race was very fascinating. Did you get a chance to watch it today?
Unfortunately I didn't. I was away for most of the day. Had to head over to the office and get a couple of things done, but it's absolutely fantastic racing.
We saw Scott McLaughlin clinching the title for 4 years. I think 3 to 4 years in a row.
I think it was 4 years in a row. If anybody knows for sure, do leave a comment down below and we'll check on that.
I think it's at least 3 years. So
yeah,
it's a great feat from him. Since he didn't win the race today, but his points was 300 points away from the winner. It was something quite a joyous moment for him today.
Absolutely, and definitely deserves it. I believe Scotty's going off to IndyCars next year, so that's going to be very exciting as well.
Okay,
and
that's something new.
I believe it's Scott McLaughlin who's going to be driving for Team Penske, who also owns the car that he races in, the DJR car. Kelvin T getting sideways, and this is the battle for the lead, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Kelvin really managed to put the foot down. This will be an absolutely sensational last to first if he can get past Eman Danish. It looks like he's very close. Eman tries to defend, gets the car all sorts of sideways going into turn 2, and just about hangs on to the lead for yet another lap. But there's another 16 minutes of racing still to go. Will the youngster be able to keep his position up at the head of the field? It looks like Kelvin's really close behind as well. Less than a car's length between those two cars. You could not fit any vehicle between these two cars right now. They're that close, and it's 0.25 seconds between them. 2.5 tenths. Eman pushing as hard as he can to try and keep. He's trying every single trick in the book to try and keep Kelvin behind. You can see Kelvin there still trying to look for an overtaking maneuver. He's going to have to try and wait, I reckon, for the start-finish straight. No, he doesn't. He goes for it into the final corner there, and it looks like he's managed to make it stick just about. And Kelvin T is in the lead of the race. He's managed to go all the way from last to first to lead a lap here at Oran Park. But Eman Danish has the slipstream. He probably won't be able to keep that lead for long. Coming in around the corner there, looks like it just has the advantage due to the fact that Kelvin was in the inside of the corner there, whilst Eman Danish was on the outside. Some very, very spectacular stuff indeed there from Kelvin T, who goes from 16th place all the way up to first position. Wow. Take that for a last to first challenge, eh?
Yeah, these PD brothers, what we're told from Kelvin T, they have very many hours on open wheelers, so should be no problem for them.
So they should really enjoy these Skip Barber cars, and you can see Kelvin's very, very quick in a single seater. Really pushing that car very hard indeed. Eman's struggling to try and keep up.
I'm just worried Eman's with his off-tracking will lead him to penalties soon if he doesn't control his driving line.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be the trick. In iRacing, of course, you are given penalty points every time you drop a wheel off the track. An off-track excursion does result in, I believe, a 2 or 4 point penalty. but there is only a finite amount of penalty points you can accrue before you have to serve a pit lane penalty, a drive-through or a stop and go. So that's going to be a very, very difficult job for him. It looks like the car's not very well balanced for Iman Danish. The car's all over the place, but it looks like Ilham Halabi is getting himself really stuck into this battle for 8th place, and it looks like he's managed to make one more place there, managing to get past Calvin Ha and really closing in on Tom Izzy up ahead. Let's hope these two don't tangle any more than they have, to no fault of Tom Izzy himself, who's unfortunately found himself crossways of the road at one point with Ilham ahead. So now Ilham is really going to try his best to try and catch up to Tom Izzy, go over across the hill, side by side, throwing the car into the apex of the corner there. It looks like he might be able to make that move stick at the next bend through the S's, and he Tom Izzy just about manages to keep the car side by side, but it looks like Ilham Halabi has managed to take about half the lap to try and make that overtaking maneuver stick. Absolutely spectacular racecraft there from Ilham. And now the trick for Ilham, he's got 6.8 seconds to try and make up to Afi, and he's really going to try and push hard to try and drop Tom Izzy from the back of that Skip Barber car. Absolutely spectacular stuff indeed. Iman Danish, meanwhile, he's gone side by side with Kelvin T. It looks like Iman's managing to get his car under control, and that's going to be an absolute copy of Ilham Halabi's overtaking maneuver. It looks like Iman Danish has managed to make the move stick just before the chicane, before the S's, I do apologise, around that corner there. And it's Iman Danish in first place, Kelvin T in second place, and Saiful Arifin in third. Very close to each other there. It looks like it's going to set up to be a very spectacular 11 minutes left in the race.
Very interesting race.
Oh yeah, it's definitely coming to be very challenging indeed. Iman Danish goes defensive, but they're going to go three wide into turn one. Will they go through it? Fine. It looks like Kelvin T's gone off the track. He's gone off the track, and that's a big incident from Kelvin T. And he's gone all the way from last to first, but unfortunately he's dropped right back down to third place there. So Iman Danish is still in the lead, Saiful Arifin in second. The two teammates pushing each other very hard indeed. Now this is going to be a real battle right now, because Saiful Arifin, he came from quite far back as well. He gained 13 positions, so really challenging indeed for these drivers. Right now in the contest of position gain, Saiful Arifin and Kelvin T both have 13 positions gained. Right now Saiful Arifin would love to just get one more position there. Iman Danish, however, definitely doing very well for himself to be up ahead at the sharp end of the field. Really doing quite well for himself. For those of you who don't know him, Iman Danish still in his teens, still in school, and really making a name for himself in sim racing. So absolutely fantastic stuff. He was our rookie of the season for season 2, and he's really showing that talent quite a bit there. But Saiful Arifin manages to pick up that slipstream. He's going to try and go around the outside. Will he make it stick? It doesn't quite look like he's able to do so. And Iman Danish manages to keep that lead for yet one more lap. Now that man must have his nerves jangling right now. He's got a lot of pressure in the form of Saiful Arifin behind him. He had a lot of pressure trying to catch up with Kelvin T, and also withstand the constant attacks that Kelvin had as well. But these drivers are very close to each other. This looks like it might be another position change for the lead. Another lead change coming up. But Iman Danish really pushing that car as hard as he can to try and avoid that. You can see how hard and how fast these cars can turn in. The lightweight and the low center of gravity of these cars really do help the cars turn in very sharply indeed. A real joy to drive when you get it right, and it can be a real handful if you get it wrong. But both drivers go right up to the wall there. It's going to be another slipstream battle. Iman tries to break the toe, but Saiful Arifin has managed to get enough of a slipstream to try and go around the outside here. The side by side down into turn 1. Will Saifur Arifin be able to do it this time around? No, he doesn't. But he goes off the road. Iman Danish goes off the road as well, and they just about collect the cars up before they collect each other. Absolutely fantastic stuff there. These drivers are driving right at the limit of what the car can provide. Iman really getting the car sideways. A little bit of understeer, a lot of understeer actually going up towards the bridge. Turning it in through turn 5. Very, very, very fast indeed through that section there, and it looks like Saifur is quicker through the back half of the track, but Iman Danish just has enough pace to try and keep Saifur in bay at the first half of the track there. So absolutely fantastic back and forth battle. And don't forget, when these guys are battling, they're slowing down. They can't take the ideal line that they would do if they're just on the track on their own there, and that means Kelvin T, who was 4.7 seconds behind, he's now 3.8 seconds behind. So there's not a lot of time left. There's only 6 minutes left. 7 minutes left. I do apologise. Just coming up there, and if they keep battling like this, it could be a challenge there. But Saifur becomes our third leader of the race. He manages to get past Iman Danish, and now it's going to be a challenge for Iman to try and get that position back. So, but Saifur, a very, very experienced driver, he manages to go into first position. A fantastic overtaking manoeuvre into that classic turn 1, turn 2 section there. Meanwhile, Afik Fadlan is trying to go around the outside as well. He's got Ilham Hlabi behind him. This is going to be a very interesting manoeuvre going into the first corner there. Ilham almost just about gets the car side by side. This is going to be a braking battle coming into the next corner here. It looks like Afik's got the upper hand there, but Ilham really throws the car as hard as he can, tries to drive the car around the outside, and doesn't quite manage to make that work. But Afik is under a lot of pressure from Ilham Hlabi. This battle has been going on for quite some time now, and this looks like it's going to be an absolute challenge for all the drivers. Afik really pushing as hard as he can. He wants to be as high up the top 10 as he can, but he gets the car a little bit sideways through there, and that might give Ilham Hlabi the advantage. They're going to go around the corner there into these S's here, over the crest and into the final corner, and it looks like Ilham's very close indeed. You can see Ilham taking a fractionally later turn in, but he gets an awesome drive out of the corner there, and it's going to be an absolute slipstream battle. Very sibilant slipstream battle coming into the first corner there, and it looks like Ilham Hlabi manages to easily overtake Fadlan. And just on that point, I've never talked as much during a race in my life. Absolute drama up and down the leaderboard, and a very interesting, very different style of racing we're seeing here. Very much tactical, very much trying to get past and try to really close up the gap between the drivers there. But there's been incidents up and down the leaderboard. Absolutely spectacular racing all round. And now Ilham Hlabi has yet another target on his hand. That is Mohammed up ahead, really getting as close as possible to that man there. You can see the distance close up between these two drivers. They're getting right onto the gearbox of the car up ahead, turning it into the corner, coming out again, and now they're going to bomb down the straight. Let's see if Ilham Hlabi has the traction coming out of the corner. Tries to outdrag Mohammed. They're going to go side by side into turn 1. This is going to be very, very tricky indeed for both drivers. Ilham gets the car a little bit sideways, and oh, there's contact. Afif Fadlan's touched Ilham Hlabi, and
that's quite unfortunate for Ilham again tonight. Twice in one day.
Three times.
Oh my.
Can this weekend get any worse for Ilham Hlabi? He looked to have he was setting up one of the best, what looked like one of the best overtaking opportunities out there, but unfortunately he had that mistake there. Wow.
We're going into maybe a final 2 or 3 laps more.
Yeah, and it's still not quite over yet for the lead. Saif Arifin is under a lot of pressure now for Iman Danish. He hasn't given up yet. Iman really wants to lead the win of the race. He's led the most laps. He wants to be leading at the most important lap, and that is the final lap. You can see the gap closing up between Saif Arifin and Iman Danish. These two drivers, definitely not a lot separates them in terms of pace. You can see Iman really throwing the car across the bumps there and straightening the car out. Literally throwing the car into the corner and sorting it out afterwards. Managed to have a chat with a certain Lloyd Lachlan, who actually drove around here in real life way back in the day. During our prize presentation, he decided to drop in for a few words and meet up with the rest of the gang. And he's had quite a lot of open wheel experience in Australia. And he says of these sort of cars, you can sort of throw these cars into the corner and sort it out. Absolutely a lot of fun, really pushing these cars to the limit. A Formula 1 car or a Formula 3 car, you can't quite do that. You have to be a lot more precise, a lot more scientific about it. With these cars, the fun of it is that you really can steer the car from the rear and really push hard. Iman Danish gets it wide, just about manages to collect that slide up, but that's lost him a lot of time there, and that's given Seifel just that breathing opportunity. There's 2 minutes left to go. I think we might go into lap 24. 24 laps of this race. So that's going to be not a lot of time to try and make up 1.5 seconds. So Iman Danish has his work cut out for him, but Saiful Arifin has managed to pull away into the lead, and it looks like Saiful has the pace advantage right now, at least through the first half of the track. And now we should see them starting the final lap here. Around the final corner, Saiful Arifin really pushed out.
Kelvin goes out track.
He just about keeps the car running. There shouldn't be too much damage there, but you wouldn't want to do that too often because these cars are virtually impossible to drive on gravel. I can tell you that much for free. But Saiful Arifin comes into the turn 1 there, really throws the car hard, brakes hard as he can, really just enjoying the car as much as possible. But Iman Danish has a lot of pace. Look at that. He's managed to catch up to Saiful Arifin. Looks like maybe Saiful's got a lot of tyre wear on right now, whilst Iman Danish just about has his tyres all in one piece. There's 30 seconds left. I believe this might be the last lap of the race, although it will be close. But Iman Danish, he's managed to close up quite a lot there. I'm wondering if Saiful had made a mistake, perhaps, or perhaps has picked up a little bit of damage. But Iman Danish really throwing the car into the corners there, sorting it out before the apex and powering out of the corners, just the way you have to drive these cars to get the most out of them. Now the checker flag is waiting at the end of the start-finish straight there, and it looks like by only 0.3 of a second it's Saiful Arifin from Iman Danish. Absolutely spectacular finish to the race there, and well held there. Kelvin T has managed to get himself 13 places up. He goes in at 3rd place, and Tunku Ershad comes home in 4th. Wow, what a race. Azrael Lasley now coming across the final corner there. Absolutely spectacular stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting this much action tonight. So they definitely were practicing. There were loads of WhatsApp notification last night on private sessions.
Yeah.
They were really eager to score some points, some podiums today. But
Yeah.
this is just we call it a one-off race. So we're waiting for some news from this guy, Kelvin Ha. So stay tuned for next week for any news. Well, meanwhile, we're going to get into this.
Aha! This is the Sim Races Asia, and a very special series indeed. We're absolutely glad to be bringing you this Fantastic series, has been going on for quite a long time indeed. One of the biggest championships in Asia. Sim Racers Asia is going to go into their autumn series with the GTE cars and the Radical SR8, a fantastic multi-class race there. So we've got races at Road Atlanta, at Circuit of the Americas, Charlotte Roval, Interlagos, Laguna Seca, Montreal, Le Mans and Indianapolis. So races on Saturdays. We'll be broadcasting select rounds live here on Adrenaline Impact, so do stay tuned. It'll be an absolutely fantastic bit of racing indeed. From our friends down at the Sim Racing Association of Singapore, as well as the Macau China Sim Racing Association, and bringing you this absolutely fantastic event.
Yeah, stay tuned to our page for how to enter. I think there's still slots open. We have 2 categories of cars to choose, and GTE and Radical. So it will be quite interesting. Let's go to the results.
Alrighty.
Okay, let me go ahead and pop
It's interesting that they picked up the Radical, because for those of you who don't know, I've been working as a mechanic and as a team manager and as an engineer in racing for quite a long time, and one of the cars I used to specialise in was the Radical. The Radical SR8, which I worked on for many years. So there's some tales to be told on those broadcasts, and I'll share them with Chan Wei Han and of course to all our wonderful lovely viewers as well. But now the results here at the Formula AI, the first Formula AI event here. Skip Barber at Oran Park on the Oran Park Grand Prix circuit. Saiful Arifin managed to win that thrilling race with Iman Danish. Only 0.3 of a second separated those two drivers in first and second place. Kelvin T tried his best to try and win both races. Unfortunately, he comes in third place during the feature. Teku Ershad in fourth, followed by Azrael Nazli, Mohammed Mahimi, Ilham Halabi, Afik Fadlan, Tamiz Yusuf and Kelvin Ha. And what can you say about Ilham Halabi? So much bad luck throughout the course of this race. 3 incidents, none of which he caused, and it must feel a bit tough for him. Surin Salvaraju is in 11th, Farouz Fazil in 12th, Muhammad Shukran in 13th, Yasri Runos in 14th. Javier Alvarez wasn't quite able to convert his 1 lap pace into a result this time around, but I'm sure he'll be back very soon indeed. He finishes in 15th place, and Shawal Rajab is a non-starter in 16th. So that was absolutely spectacular stuff. There was absolute bedlam all up and down the leaderboard. Fantastic driving, side-by-side action, as you can see there at the start of the race. It was very tricky indeed. You can see there were some incidents further on down the line there. Some cars going off the road, and cars trying to go 3 wide into turn 2, which is, I can assure you, not the smartest thing to do. Very easy to have an incident there, but somehow they managed to actually get through it.
So this is how Saiful Arifin from the back positions went on to the win. He did it in less than half of the race.
Yeah.
In 16 odd laps.
Yeah. Absolutely spectacular stuff as well. You can see he didn't have the best of starts. He did manage to overtake a few drivers through the first corner there, and there was a spin as well, which he managed to take advantage of. But from this point on, he's going to be pushing as hard as he can to try and get past.
There goes Sorin. Okay, I was wondering what happened to Sorin.
So he had a little bit of a mistake earlier on. He had a bit of wing damage at the back of the car, I noticed. There's another car in the barrier there, and that just goes to show you can't win the race on the first lap there. So that was a good 5 or 6 positions gained by Saiful Arifin through the first lap alone, as everyone's trying to get themselves into a bit of a rhythm. But you can see the amount of people he's overtaken, and it really is a case of just trying to keep your nose clean and try and stick to your strategy. Again, another car's gone off the road there, just about manages to avoid that, and that's a full 3 cars overtaken in 1 corner. I think that's the first time I've seen that in a long time.
Yeah, he took that opportunity, and he was luck was on his side. He was on a safe route there, and he took it very good there.
That's the thing when it comes to single seat racing. You have to take every single opportunity you can in front of you, not only just in the race car but outside as well. And in your career, you really have to take every single opportunity that goes that is put in front of you. And Cypher did that very well indeed throughout the course of this race.
Okay, man. So we've reached the end of the stream. So please do the wrap up.
All right. So a special thanks to all the drivers out there, and congratulations to Saif Arifin for taking home the win, and a special thanks to Carol Alan as well for our director duties for this evening, and a special thanks to Precision Sim Racing, a very special announcement coming in association with those guys in the coming days, so do stay tuned for that. And a special thanks to the sim racing enthusiast community as well, who've been such a big supporter of the Adrenaline Impact series and the Adrenaline Impact races. As you can see there, Takuya Shad saying grazie ragazzi. Dai. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Great race, guys. Thanks AI for the host.
Yeah,
This
is one of our admins.
yeah. I was just about to
imposter.
I was just about to say that's a bit big-headed coming from Carol Allen, but that is one of our chat admins there. So in any case, special thanks to all of you guys out there, and yeah. So that has been Carol Allen. My name has been Max Palmer, and we will see you all in the next video. But for now, Tara.
Aduh, Ipin, aduh.